Where are my glasses? They're there. Okay. That's weird. There's nothing here. Very odd. Welcome in, everyone, to the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for waiting a few minutes until we get started here. It was kind of strange because I saw, based on the indicator right here, that nobody was on the line, so I was waiting for a few people to gather, but YouTube was telling me over here that we had about 14 or 15 people, so we want to get started. Don't want to keep you guys waiting. Want to talk college football eventually in regards to, first, a channel update, a network update here at the Voice of College Football that we want to inform all of you about, that we're excited about. We believe we're upgrading. And we also want to share some things with you concerning the channel and how you can best engage with us as we go forward talking college football during the offseason and certainly heading into 2023. Then I will be available to take your calls. I've left the link in the live chat. Want to present, again, the update first, and then we'll take your calls on college football as we start another week, make our way through March. April is going to be enormous here at the Voice of College Football because, first and foremost, we are going to be all over spring football and spring games starting with April 1st and a Michigan watch party that we will tell you more about, but a Michigan watch party that is available to everyone. And then as we go through the weeks and the Saturdays specifically throughout April, you will note that about 15 to 20 major teams will be playing each and every Saturday. We will be here live with watch parties, post-game analysis, taking your calls, and doing up spring football and these spring games right. And then the aftermath with the transfer portal and what it all means. And we will do a ton of post-spring analysis, top 25, re-rank the teams based on what was indicated during the spring, position rankings, player rankings, power rankings of the conferences, and so forth. All right, first I want to run down some changes, some updates, and some upgrades here at the Voice of College Football. So let's get to that first and foremost. For those of you, first and foremost, that I want to make sure that we are taking care of you folks on Patreon. So we've been on Patreon 3 to 4 years, and I thank you so much for the great support over there for many of you who have supported us, whether it's been for the last month or for it's been since we started the Patreon 3 to 4 years ago. Many of you have come and gone. That's great. At different times of the year. Obviously, during the football season, we have a little bit more to offer. However, we're going to change and correct that. So we will have much to offer on Patreon. So none of these changes will impact any of you on Patreon. So if you have a Patreon membership, you can stay right there if that's what you choose to do. And we are not taking anything away from you. Actually, we are adding to the Patreon experience, but also we have YouTube memberships that we want to let you all know about. All right, so let's get to it. Unfortunately, in building slides, I'm not able to build slides and post them. And so what I end up doing during some of these presentations is I build a video file and then just guess how long I'm going to talk about that topic. I throw up the video file, but then it runs out after a minute or 2 minutes. And obviously, I don't time it out perfectly. So some of my operational shortcomings come into play here, but I try to build some files, some slides, but actually just build videos that we're going to roll right here to supplement what I'm talking about concerning, first and foremost, we'll talk about what we do here at the Voice of College Football and what we want to do for all of you. So this is what it means. So yes, if I didn't make this clear, this is a channel update. And our goals for you, this is what we want you to experience. And it's going to be different for everyone. Some of you want to just dive in the live chats and talk to people and maybe listen a little bit to me. Many of you want to call into the show all the time, want to have interactions with me, comments and questions going back and forth. Many of you want the analysis of the top 25 that actually makes sense, and the power rankings and the player rankings and the all-time rankings and the disputed national championship series that we've done in the past and will be doing here in the next few weeks. I'm excited about that. You know, if you've watched me for any length of time, that I love reviewing the national championship seasons and distinguishing what was fair and what was not rewarded. Love doing that. So not to get too deep into any one thing, these are the goals that we have for you and your viewing experience. Guess I'll have to go to the dreaded glasses here. Number one, first and foremost, best discussion, debate, and analysis. That's all there is to it. Best discussion, debate, and analysis. That's what we want to provide. Do we do that every day? No, we don't. We don't meet our goals every day. Tom Brady doesn't win every week. That's how it goes. But we want to provide the best. And discussion, debate, and analysis with myself, discussion, debate, and analysis between all of you in the live chat and in the comment section of the videos. Number two, we want to build community. I don't know if there's anything that does my heart any more good within the confines of this channel and this platform when I find out that people connected here, both viewers, you guys in the community that have connected and become friends, and sometimes in-person friends through the Voice of College Football. That is phenomenal. And then I also know of a number of relationships by media people that now collaborate and work together, and they met because of the Voice of College Football. I love that. So best discussion, debate, and analysis, number one. Building community, number two. We want the best content. Of course, that's connected to number one. We just want to deliver the best content. Who is that to say? Who is to say who's got the best content? I will leave that up for all of you to decide. That is not up for me to decide. Number four, we want to deliver the most content. I think we already nailed that one. So with all of the changes that are going to be announced here, everything we're going to talk about, I want you to understand something. For anybody who may think, and I totally get your thought process, that you just want to subscribe to the main channel and maybe a team channel, your favorite team, or a collection of team channels, and you're thinking, okay, Mark's taking content away from us. I want you to think about it this way. Let's say it's a month from now, 6 weeks from now. Look at the main channel, not just the main channel, because understand that while there are other college football YouTube channels that have one channel and they're pouring all their time and effort and talent and ability and content creation into that one channel, keep in mind that I spend most of my time on the team channels. I would like to change that, and we will work on that. But I spend more time on the team channels than I do here on the main channel. So we have delivered as much as we possibly can on the main channel while having and trying to maintain 25 team channels. Truth be known, I'm not maintaining 25 team channels. I'm maintaining about 12. The other ones are just there for right now, and we will build those at another time. So I want you to look at, if you believe that we're taking away content, keep this perspective. If you came across the main channel and the team channels 2 months from now and thought, I guarantee that people that come across our platforms 2 months from now are going to think, this dude cranks out a ton of content. So that will always be the case. There will always be sufficient content. So that's what I want for you. And when it comes right down to it, I just want the most fun and informative experience possible. I want you to have fun if you want to have fun. If you want to be informed, that's what I want. The experience to be beneficial to you. All right. Let's go to the business model, which is a bad one right now. It works. I pay the bills, but we are too dependent on YouTube ad revenue. So you understand, when I produce a video and post it, we receive YouTube ad revenue. It might be 37 cents. It might be $3.49. It might be $22.62. Based on a number of factors that we will not get into. We're not getting into the weeds here about the way YouTube works, but this is a bad business model. And I've known that it's a bad business model for a long, long time. and I've tried to correct it, but have not fully engaged in correcting it. Any person on YouTube that is worth anything will tell you that you should not be earning most of the income, and that should not be by way of YouTube ad revenue. That's a faulty model, bad business model. But also, of course, I started this with a full-time job, and most of the history of this channel and all the other channels come with me having more than a full-time job somewhere else. So it had to be built in such a way that I could not focus on this and build it as a business. It went from hobby to always a passion to semi-business to, hey, it's everything now. Where should it be coming from? We should have sponsors. We've got no sponsors right now. So we should have sponsors. They should be supporting these channels more than anyone. We've had some sponsorships in the past. They were not in any way major sponsorships. I was thankful for them, and I do thank those folks. But we don't have any sponsors right now. Number two, we should have a subscription model, which we have on Patreon to a certain extent, but we've not built it out. It's not been significant in any such way. So these are in order based on what I've heard and based on people that I trust and people who are successful, but also based on just what I know and would like to deliver and have take place. Number three, affiliate marketing. We do very little of that. We do have the Amazon link. You know that. We are constantly pushing the Amazon link for obvious reasons. It's easy. We've got an Amazon link. Half of America shops on Amazon. Not just overall. Half of America shops on Amazon every month. So the Amazon link, I would think, would just blow up. But it doesn't. It's usually bringing in $20 a month. So it may take some time, but looking into various ways to build out the affiliate marketing portion of this. But also keep in mind, the Amazon link's right there. Same shopping experience, doesn't cost you a dime, and it benefits the channel. Number four, merchandise, that we are so happy, pumped, appreciative that the merchandise line has turned out as well as it has thanks to our buddy Joey. The merchandise looks phenomenal. We are getting rave reviews about the merchandise. It's quality. We wanted to merge quality and affordability, and we believe we've achieved that. If you have any requests for merchandise, we cannot guarantee that we can pull it off, but we can possibly, if you've got a request for merchandise, we can possibly meet your request. And we are constantly looking for ways to add items, and potentially we would love to have specific team items for all the team channels so that you can wear proudly the voice of college football and your favorite team colors and your favorite team name. We are not there yet. Also, other products that I won't get into, but believe me, I have poured a significant amount of time and effort and revenue, a significant amount of resources into a product that because of my own personal and family situation, I've had to put that on the back burner, but I hope in the next year we will be able to provide that product. All right, number five, then comes YouTube ad revenue. The fine folks at Think Media, who are experts on YouTube, they are the industry standard. They know YouTube. They have built an empire on YouTube and are teaching others how to do it. They will tell you the YouTube ad revenue should be tip money. It should be tip money. Now, what we do here, the Voice of College Football, it's just a different sports entertainment is different from the standpoint that I'm not teaching you how to garden or change your oil, and I'm not teaching you how to make money. Those are the things that are real money makers on YouTube. When somebody can teach you how to make money, because people are all over YouTube looking to get rich and figure out, how do I get out of debt? How do I make money? So there is a huge market for that. And obviously those viewerships for those videos are astronomical. And then you also have your people that teach you to do something. Sorry, I don't have that skill. We just talk college football here and do it in the very best possible way. So it is a little bit different for us in terms of building products is more difficult, but we still have one again on the back burner that I've poured a lot of time and resources, money into, and I need to finish that project and get it out to all of you. Number 5, YouTube ad revenue, and then viewer contributions. Every time that I get a super chat or somebody sends me something on Venmo or PayPal or Cash App, and those are available too, and there are certain benefits to us here at the Voice of College Football. If you go through Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App, you can find me at MarkRogersTV or on PayPal just at Mark Rogers. And we've got the links down in the description section of the videos. But I cannot, of course, I'm running a show, so I can't stop with every super chat and go on for 10 minutes about how appreciative I am, because that would kind of hijack the show. But that's what I feel like doing. Every time I get a super chat, what I feel like doing is basically, if it's $1.99, I realize that that particular person, you are saying, Mark, you are worth this contribution, regardless of how much income, how much resource that you have. You are saying you are worth investing in. I value what we do here at the Voice of College Football for whatever reason. I think you're a genius. I think you're a moron, but I just like being here for whatever reason. I love the analysis, or I like to make fun of you and debate you, whatever. I cannot, in any reasonable, effective way, explain to you how appreciative I am of any viewer contribution. It blows me away. And there's obviously through the years been, at this point, thousands of them. And they still blow me away. It still blows me away that somebody is here to say, and I don't know if that person's a billionaire or they don't know where their next meal is coming from. Regardless, that they are investing in what we do here. Blows me away. So I want you to know, for anybody out there who has given in the past or will be giving in the future in any such way, I don't care the amount. We thank you. It blows me away. We thank you. So viewer contributions are amazing. And believe me, they are amazing. And they have supplemented the number 5, the YouTube ad revenue, significantly. Sometimes, many times, the viewer contributions outweigh the ad revenue. If you didn't know this about YouTube, the folks out there that are producing videos that get 2 million views, yes, that video makes a lot of money. I produce a lot of videos that make like 247 or 316. And it's really, to be honest, and we are always transparent here, we are always honest with you, it's kind of a waste of time. Now, there are other benefits to this in terms of not just what I make immediately on that video, but if I gained 8 subscribers because of that video, or for whatever reason, there are other benefits and other reasons to producing content. However, the bottom line is there has to be income and revenue coming in. And so if I work 5 hours on a video that makes $3, it obviously, I don't know if you're working on your own budget at home, it doesn't make much sense. So the YouTube ad revenue needs to be put in its proper place. I'm not really in a position to do that right now. So we continue to rely on YouTube for ad revenue and your contributions as well. All right. So, yes, and Patreon members, you are unaffected by any of this. You have more options now, both on Patreon and through YouTube, but you are unaffected. So here we go. We will first run down Patreon. So we've got 3 levels to Patreon currently. So for those of you who belong to Patreon and you pay $5 a month, you are now in the top 25 that actually makes sense tier. And folks, if you have better names, I was trying to come up with names that are connected to what we do here at the Voice of College Football, and that was the most obvious one. And it's a lot of words and it's too long, but it's what it is right now. But I can always change this. The first level is the top 25 that actually makes sense. And it's $5 a month. I'm going to do my very best. I spent like way too much time. Trying to change it from $5 to $4.99. And it's like almost impossible. You almost have to have everybody unsubscribe, change it to $4.99, change it by 1 penny, and then get everybody else to subscribe. So it may continue to be $5 until I work through that. You got to go through like 18 steps, and it seems like a pain in the, yeah. So it's $5, but I want it to be $4.99. And see, this is what I meant by my video file. I'll just have to continue to run this. So that is the first level. So you folks currently on Patreon, stay there. You've got the Discord. You've got everything that you currently have. Actually, we're going to provide more bang for the buck for all of you at $5 per month. Then we've got the Undisputed National Championship. So, you know, of course, we've got our series of disputed national championships, but I thought it would be a bit of a slight to name your tier, your membership, that you are a disputed national champion. So we make you you are one of the rarities out there that you are the undisputed national champion. You are the Georgia of 2022. Sorry if that offends you, if you're a Bama fan or a Florida fan or a Big Ten fan or whoever, or a TCU fan. You are an undisputed national champion. And so I better go to figure out what that actually means. So undisputed national champion on Patreon. You get Discord. You get more content. You get the predictions from me, which you do on the first level as well. You also get the media predictions that you do on the first level as well. But you get a ton of extra bonus exclusive content. So that's what that brings to the table, and you're just going to have to trust me to a certain extent in terms of what that's going to be. And then as we build this out throughout the months, I'm going to be able to say, so it's just going to be extra content from just about every team that we cover on a regular basis. That's not going to be every day, but it's going to be far more than every once a week, a couple times a week, 3 times a week. Extra content for the undisputed national championship level. And then we go full bore with the All Access Hall of Fame. And of course, you always get you always get the perks and the benefits from the previous tiers. So that goes without saying. You get everything that you get from the other tiers, and then you get the additional. Also, I should mention that for the undisputed national champion level on Patreon, that you also get, Joey and I still have to figure this out exactly what it's going to be, but after 3 months, you're going to get merchandise for free. After 6 months, you're going to get another merchandise for free. And then after 9 months, we're going to do that every 3 to 6 months. We are going to provide merchandise for free. So you'll get a free mug, a free keychain, a free t-shirt at some point, or hoodie. So again, Patreon levels 2 and 3, the undisputed national champion and the All Access Hall of Fame, free merch after 3, 6, 9 months, etc. down the line. All right. This is what you basically are doing when you say, I'm signing up for the All Access Hall of Fame on Patreon. We are going to do a monthly live stream per request. So I'm not going to do a live stream for nobody. So I will remind you over and over and over and over, this is per request, that we will do a live stream where I will go no holds barred, unfiltered, all access, ask me, whatever. Career, business, college football, other sports, dare I say politics, whatever. We'll talk about it. We're going to do that once a month. And basically, again, we are always transparent and honest about all of this. That is the track record for sure. That the All Access Hall of Fame portion of this is basically what you're doing right there is you're saying, thank you, Mark, thank you. It's like a lot of people on Patreon right now that I talk to and ask, why are you on Patreon? Because I want to deliver the best possible benefits on Patreon. So I consistently ask people, why are you on Patreon? Why did you sign up? And what I typically get back is, I'm just supporting. I don't need anything extra. Now, we're not going to build out Patreon and the YouTube memberships just assuming, oh, you guys just want to support and don't need anything in return. Not at all. We are going to deliver. I'm just saying that the feedback that I receive on a regular basis from a lot of people on Patreon right now is just, we're just there to support you. We don't care if you do anything additional, but we do. Predictions from me. You get the Steve Merrill prediction, which he was 13-1 against the spread. 13-1 against the spread on his weekly under the radar selection that you can only find on Patreon and YouTube memberships coming up. And again, all access, one live stream per month, real talk, just unfiltered. Here it is. This is what I think. This is what I believe. And that should be a good time. All right, let's get to the, as I run out of windows here, let's get to the YouTube memberships that we are just establishing here over the weekend. I think officially we go into practice here on April 1st. So this is an April 1st deal. We're going to have a Michigan watch party, and we're going to provide the link, even though that's going to be on Patreon. We are going to provide the link for everybody to join our Michigan watch party. Okay, YouTube memberships. So top 25 that actually makes sense. That looks familiar. At $2.99 per month, you're going to get, and all of this is laid out on the channel. So if you click join on the first page, you're not automatically joining. You are then seeing these various levels, and then you can make a decision. So special badge to notify or signify that you are a member, emojis that I've made like 5 emojis, gave them little names. We can make more. So if you've got suggestions on what other emojis you would like to see that are cute, clever, funny, that's not really my thing. So I did the best I could, but you guys are going to be able to come up with better ideas for emojis. But I came up with about 5 to say, I'm trash talking, I'm pumping my fist, I'm whatever. I did a lot of that. And excuse me for just a second. We're going to delete a ton of these windows that have to be opened every time I do this again. So again, for the top 25 that actually makes sense level, you get special badges, emojis, shout outs. I think there's other stuff on there that I should be aware of. And again, I want feedback on all of this. All right. Then, yes, you're undisputed national champion, which I was upset. You understand I wasn't upset. I'm kidding. But I was upset that YouTube had a character minimum on the undisputed national champion level. So I had to call it the undisputed national champ, or maybe just the national champ. I don't remember. So for that, Discord, extra content, predictions from me and the media. And again, you're just going to have to trust me. When we deliver content here at the Voice of College Football, I think you get a pretty good read that we deliver a ton of quality content. And we will continue to do that because we want to draw in new viewers and new subscribers here on the main channel every day. So there will continue to be, it's not like, oh, I'm going to move everything over to YouTube memberships. No, we need this channel to grow, 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 grow. So there's going to be more emphasis on this channel growing and providing great content. The last couple Friday nights, actually just the last Friday night, we did a call-in show and it was received rather well with about 240 of you on the line and however many views. So I guess I need to get back to that. Early evening, late evening, whether that's going to be an overnight or late night, and then pop up on Saturdays and Sundays and throughout the week. And of course, respond to breaking news as we always do here at the Voice of College Football. But that second undisputed national champion, there is just going to be a ton of extra content there. And we are keeping these consistent with what's going on Patreon. Other than the first level, since we can't change Patreon, I don't want to in any way affect our current Voice of College Football community patrons on Patreon. So then they all access Hall of Fame. So the two levels that you see, the undisputed national champion and the all access Hall of Fame, they're exact. It's going to be double work for me because I'm going to have to like upload stuff double, but I want those to be exactly the same. They're the same pricing, same content, same benefits on Patreon. So you can stay on Patreon and upgrade, or you can go to Patreon or on YouTube. You can do that as well. So I hope all of that makes sense. Because I want to point a few things out here, folks. One is that why are we doing this? Well, we're running a business. So I outlined at the beginning, if you've missed this, of course, as always, I would expect and I would hope and I advise you to go back and watch what you missed. So we talked about all the benefits to you and what I want this experience to be for all of you. Best discussion, debate, and analysis, build community, best content, most content. I want you to have fun and be informed. I want you to gain from the insight of myself and other people that we bring on here. Okay. And most of all, just have the experience that you want to have at a college football channel. That's what I want. So for us, again, relying on YouTube solely is moronic, insane. So we cannot do that. We also want to have watch parties. We had a watch party. We had two watch parties for the college football playoffs, and they both got taken down because of copyright issues. And so we had like 31,000 views, and that got taken down and cost us a lot of income. So we want to be able to have watch parties. Not that we want to have watch parties. I just have to regulate them better here on the main channel or on the team channels. I just need to regulate them better if we do watch parties. But keep in mind, we'll be able to just do watch parties and do them the way we want to through the YouTube memberships and the Patreon. So watch parties, film reviews. So I have in mind a number of great topics, great debates throughout the month of May, and we'll be able to do film reviews. So if I show video here, we probably won't have the video taken down, but I can't earn a penny off of that. So if we had a couple $100 come in through super chats, that would be fine, but that doesn't typically happen. So we can't have a 3-hour live stream and watch video of a game from last Saturday, usually when they play it, unless, we're talking about the Pac-12's new media contract. Anyway, that we can talk about and show the video and talk about it and break it down. Well, can't do that here because I've tried it and we can't. So we will do it there. So I so much look forward to that. Again, I cannot overstate, I cannot be reliant on YouTube. I am. If YouTube shut me down today, I'd be in a world of hurt. And so this is just a better way of building a reasonable business. And again, the bottom line in all this is if you like what we do and you watch our content on a regular basis, I guarantee that anybody who would show up for the first time a month or two from now would be still amazed by how much content we are providing, not just here, but on all the team channels as well. So we're going to do it in such a way that you can stay right here and lock it in on the main channel or the team channels as well. And you will get plenty, but there is a lot of good stuff to get excited about on the YouTube memberships and on Patreon. I've been told that call-in shows are the best thing that we do. Whether that's the best thing I do or the best thing that all of us do together, I've been told both. Mark, that's what you do best. Take calls, tell people what's going on, debate with people, analyze stuff in the moment. And I love it. So that will always be a big thing in terms of what we do here at the Voice of College Football, call-in shows. We are going to, at some point, take some level of the same approach and philosophy to the team channels, but one step at a time. One step at a time. Is there a problem with me trying to get that off the screen? Apparently there is. What the heck? I cannot find. That's very odd. I can't. Let's do it this way. Bam. All right. Good to see all of you. Good to hear from all of you. And now we will open up to college football discussion. We can talk about what I just presented, or we can just talk about college football. But I have left the link in the chat. I'm going to scan the chat for all sorts of comments and questions that I'm sure are here. We will be back at 6 Eastern for our Big Ten live show. 6 p.m. Eastern time, the Big Ten live show is going to be right here. And I believe starting tonight, yes, we are going to go ahead and we are going to make that available on all the Big Ten. We are going to make that available on all the Big Ten channels as well. And see how that goes. Super chat. Thank you, John, for letting me know. Larry has chimed in. Larry, and I'm not saying this because of what I just read, because this was coming out of my mouth before I read what Larry has to say on the super chat. And I really picked most of this up, not just from listening to Larry and us conversing, because I think he's actually had a lot more to say. And Larry is, you know, that you can call anytime, of course, and talk college football. But watching so it's been fun for me this past college football season for the first time to kind of kick back a little bit. And let's say on a Sunday night for the College Football After Dark show or the Pac-12 show, or now the USC show, for me to like back away, back out and watch and listen. And Larry on that Pac-12 show and also on the After Dark show, he has provided some tremendous insight into Utah, into the Pac-12, and then beyond that, the national landscape. Larry's a smart guy. That's all there is to it. And there are people that are informed. They know a lot of stuff. They know a lot of facts, but they don't necessarily transition those into any reasonable thought. But Larry, so thank you so much for that, Larry. Thank you for being a Patreon member. And this is something that I said to somebody recently, that I don't like presenting this stuff. I don't enjoy this. I don't like it, even though I believe it has to be done. It obviously has to be done for us to be doing this a year from now or 5 years from now. It has to be done, and it's business, and it's trying to work entertainment and community into business. So we got to kind of, it's almost like us watching college football all the time, right? We just want to talk about college football. We want to talk about players and coaches and legacies and great games and matchups and nuts and bolts and uh, who's the best quarterback and who's the best this. We want to talk about football, but it's a business, so we got to talk about the business too, right? We've been talking a lot of business in the last couple of years concerning college football, way too much for my liking. So this is kind of in the same mode that this has to be addressed. I want to inform all of you and keep you up to date. And I know that some of you could care less. And I say that in all respect. I don't say that in a derogatory way. You don't have time or don't care how well the channel's doing or not doing. You just want to watch some college football content. God bless you. You are in the right place because we deliver a ton of content. So you don't have to listen to these kind of spiels very often. So most of the time it's just full throttle college football. So you're in the right place. You don't have to care if I still exist a week from now or this channel still exists. As long as it exists today, just watch the videos, call the shows, take part in the live chats, do all that. But I do appreciate for those folks like Larry and many of you that care about the success of the channel. So Larry, thank you so much for that. And I guess I am obligated to read your super chat. That's part of the deal. I'm a Patreon member and constantly contribute. Yes, you do. And it is because of your interaction, professionalism, integrity, and honesty. Well, thank you so much for that. Every so often I make this statement. When you get my opinion or my perspective on something, it's not because I want everyone to like me. Or I think on the other end of the spectrum, some people just want to stir people up and have them get pissed. So they just want to stir people up intentionally and poke the bear and stir them up and get clicks. I'm in neither camp. So I realize that sometimes I'll deliver my opinion or my perspective on something, and it's going to be, you know what it's going to be? Boring. Because it's going to be like, well, that's what just about everybody else thinks. Well, if that's what sometimes I'm with the mainstream, and when it comes to other things in life, that becomes less and less, that's for sure. But in terms of sports, college football, sometimes I'm exactly with the mainstream. I'm not going to come up with some crazy theory on why Georgia, even though they won the national championship by 58 points, they're really not the best team. Somebody else is the best team. No, Georgia's the best team. So it's pretty obvious. I'm not enlightening anyone. So sometimes my takes are going to be very mundane and boring, but it's always going to be the truth or my perspective. Sometimes it's not truth. It's just opinion and perspective. Sometimes it's actually going to be fact-based. Most of the time with me, there's going to be facts backing my opinion on something. Now, things that you like or dislike, that's different. You don't have to have a fact behind, oh, that dude's my favorite player. If the person never gained a yard, that's your opinion. That's your deal. That's your favorite player. That can't be argued. Other things can't be argued on the other end of the spectrum. Who threw the most touchdowns in college football last year? That can't be debated. I don't know who that is off the top of my head. And I don't want to think about it right this second. Anyway, that can't be debated. But there's a whole lot in the middle that can be debated. And again, sometimes my takes are going to be very mundane, boring. This is pretty standard. Mark's not telling us anything outrageous. But other times, and I know this to be true, my takes will be a little controversial, little out there, little contrarian, or a lot contrarian. And I'm not doing that to rile people up. I'm just telling you what I believe. And I'm grateful to all of you who understand that. And for those of you who don't or did not at some point, I'm glad that I won you over to at least respect that my perspective is, in my opinion, is just authentic. That's like when we did the Steve Deace segment every Thursday. Sometimes we disagreed, sometimes we didn't. We did not manufacture an argument or a debate. If we agreed, we agreed. If we disagreed, we disagreed. I came from a place in corporate life where sometimes they had to manufacture debates, and I witnessed it. You are going to argue this side. You are going to argue that. We understand that you're both on the same side, but you're going to have to argue this. So just argue that point. You argue that point. And I'm not saying that happened every day, but I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it firsthand. I actually saw Kirk Herbstreit one time on the air say he ran out of arguments or ran out of defending a position. And you know what? He just kind of threw up his arms and said, I don't know. This isn't really what I think. I was just told I got to stick up for. And it wasn't some like social issue where you would question, okay, this person's arguing something they don't believe in. It was just a football debate. But still, he was handed what he had to debate and defend. That's not anything I'm ever going to do. If I have 5 people on here to debate something and they all agree on it, well, it might be boring, but it's going to be authentic. I'm not going to say, well, you need to argue this point and you have to argue that point. Dan Beast Media, thank you so much for being here. John, thank you. Antoine, good to see you here. I tell you, Antoine, he shows up at that Michigan show every Wednesday. He's here all the time. It's good to see Antoine. Tony, yes, let's debate debates. We've gotten to a place in sports and probably in news too, although it's not as obvious to me, but in sports, because I've got to shut off the news for like a month at a time because the news have become too opinion-based and not facts, not reporting, not journalism. But in the sports realm, yeah, sometimes you have to shake your head and think, what are we debating here? We are watching debates where they're not debating, okay, who's better, Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers? They're not debating that. They're debating that so-and-so on Twitter criticized so-and-so. And now we've gotten to the point where we're debating, should so-and-so have criticized so-and-so for criticizing so-and-so? Like, I've seen those kind of debates and thought, we are debating a tweet that was sent by a person that is criticizing another tweet that is criticizing the performance of so-and-so or what somebody else said. So we're like 4 degrees away from the actual incident or statement, and we are debating that. It's like, what? Jason's here. Man, I'm surrounded by Michigan fans. We got John, we got Antoine, we got Jason. Michigan is on fire in recruiting. We just got Hillman, the Notre Dame decommit. So that is something that we brought up on the Ohio State and Michigan shows, definitely on the Ohio State show, because that's where I first saw it. Was I was preparing for the Ohio State show last Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, every Wednesday on the Ohio State channel, that I was looking at Ohio State related news. And yes, I can't remember his first name. The Hillman kid that committed to Notre Dame. He's one of the top 10 athletes. He's in the athlete category, which I didn't even look further into it. I couldn't even find a site that would tell me, is he leaning wide receiver? Is he going to play defensive back? What is he? So anyway, yes, we saw that he decommitted, and I saw that Michigan was in the best possible position. So we just got. So, yes, the commit there. So, we will cover that. Whether that's me producing a video before Wednesday or definitely on Wednesday, John and I will provide analysis and commentary on a big takeaway Michigan has made against Notre Dame in recruiting. Gregory's here. Look at this. I have called out the Michigan fans, and now they are showing up in droves. And that's a great thing. We do believe that we've got more Michigan fans here than any other fan base. I'm going to take an unofficial, hopefully official poll at some point. We started to do that a couple of years ago. I asked for all of you to email me to tell me who you root for and how long you've been watching. And if you had any stories that you wanted to convey, like how you became a fan or anything like that, or how you started to watch college football or watch us. But at that point, and I still have those listings, that would be interesting to look at. It wasn't that, considering 40,000 subs, it wasn't that extensive what we had there. But let's see if I can even find that. I do have it in a Google Doc. Where is that? Oh, my word. I should not have brought that up. But we had Ohio State and Michigan fans commenting the most. They got back to me the most. I don't want to make an assumption because it was only about 50 or 60 per team. And then after that, it dwindled quite a bit. So that got me to thinking we want to balance out our coverage and we want to balance out, excuse me. Wonder where I have that. Shoot. I'm just curious. All right. I don't know where it is. Oh. Here it is. No. That's something else. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get back to that at another time. What in the world would that be, Gregory? Gregory says, I love the update. Perhaps see if people want to form an advisory committee within your Patreon. That sounds like something we should have for college football. A governing body, an advisory committee. I would like to know more about that. I'm not putting together why we need an advisory committee. Of course, I'm guessing you're telling me that the advisory committee would let us know what we should be providing on Patreon. So that is, I'm going to tell you right now. So talk about authenticity and just letting you know, here it goes. This is what I have in mind for YouTube memberships and Patreon for extra content. Let's say I've got a conversation scheduled with Pat Murphy from Bucknuts 247 Sports. So if you are a member or a subscriber or watch the Ohio State channel, you don't have to be a subscriber. A lot of people just watch the videos and they don't subscribe. But I wish you would subscribe. And for those people, they would not be the people watching right now, but for the people that are subscribed but don't watch the videos, I almost rather have you just unsubscribe. But anyway, so we will have a conversation with Pat usually about once a week. It's been a little bit less here in the off season until we get deep into spring practice, but we'll bring him on about once a week to supplement our Ohio State live show. And I'll do 30 minutes with Pat, and then we will edit that into different segments and deliver that on the Ohio State, post those videos on the Ohio State channel. One thought is that I'll provide 80 to 90% of that on the Ohio State channel. Then I'll take, let's say, one topic and I'll make that exclusive to Patreon and YouTube memberships. Now, I know that in doing that, one of the drawbacks to doing what we do here at the Voice of College Football is obviously some of you could care less about Ohio State, or to be more precise, could not care less. Couldn't care less about Ohio State, couldn't care less about USC, couldn't care less about fill in the blank. Some of you God love you, want just any college football content you can get. But some of you just want to hear about your team or just want to hear about your conference. Great. So this is one of the drawbacks, is that I will be providing content, and we are going to be very diverse in regards to the teams involved and the subject matters, because I can't assume that any 1, 2, 10 particular teams are the ones that are going to resonate with YouTube members and Patreon. But I do believe that a lot of it's going to be very nationally based. So, for example, this is a series that I love doing. Love it. I'm going to produce a video, and this is not going to be like behind a paywall. I'm going to produce a video. I am going to produce a video. I don't know where my notes are. They're here somewhere. I've got about 18 notepads. Where I'm going to run through the playoff era 2014 through 22, and we are going to talk about teams that earned a right to be in the playoff. Okay, so I'm going to analyze that. I am not going to question any of the national championships during the playoff era. All those teams earned the playoff spot, and then they won a national championship. And I understand we can argue about Alabama not winning a conference in 2017 and going on to win the national championship. And I respect those perspectives, because we're not going to go into the weeds here. But again, I respect, but we're going to start our series on disputed national championships. But I'm going to cover the playoff era kind of in one large take, just to say, let's consider there were teams left out of the playoff that earned a playoff spot just as much as some of the teams that were in the playoff. And that's the only question I will put on the playoff era. I'm not questioning or trying to take away in any way anyone's national championships. I do think that there are teams, whether that's Ohio State in 2018, UCF in 2017, UCF in 2018, TCU and Baylor in 2014, on and on. There are teams that earned playoff spots just as much as some of the teams that were invited. Remember, it's an invitational, not a true playoff. So I am going to cover that. Then we're going to start with 2013, the BCS era. We're going to go through every year, 2013, 2012. And I know that many of you just kind of take the vote, the BCS formula as is, and are fine with that. But I'm not, because there are tons of blatant screw ups. And then there are other points that can be very much debated and questioned. And we can go through every year. I've got a million years going through my mind right now, but we're not going down that path right now. So that's the type of content that we will provide here on the main channel, but we will also provide some of it as a national focus, because obviously if I post national content on the YouTube memberships and on the Patreon, then I can guess that most likely more people are going to be interested. So I've got a crazy list of topics I hope I can get to, because I want to, and I think most of you want me to. Let's see. So what do we got here? We've got all sorts of stuff here. So Gregory, thank you so much for the comment. I appreciate that. I don't know that we're going to take off on that right now. It could be just more conversations I have to have every week. It's very strange. I didn't start this live stream in terms of me coming onto the live stream as early as I would have, because it's still showing me that nobody's watching. It's showing me 0 viewers. That's why I didn't start for a while. And I'm like, I even texted Joey and I said, this is strange. I've had this stream running for like 7 minutes and nobody's watching. And then I jumped on YouTube and I was like, oh, there's like 25 people watching. But it's showing me 0, and it's never done this before. Okay, anyway, let's, so for example, and Jason, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. And Jason, you can get away with all your Michigan rhetoric and you can post all that Michigan propaganda and promotion for the Maize and Blue and get away with it because it's connected to a super chat. So Jason says, those who stay will be champions. Now, I connected that statement to Bo Schembechler. Is that correct, or did that predate Bo Schembechler? And so I did read that correctly, Gregory. So I appreciate that. And I'm not saying that there's not a place for that, but I'm just kind of saying that there's just so much going on and so much I'm trying to keep track of and do a poor job of it. If I just had one channel, if I was like a lot of other college football and just YouTube channels, and I just had one channel that I was trying to keep track of, oh, this would be so much simpler. All right. And as Joey is reminding everyone, don't forget, everyone, if you're a member, you also receive an invite onto the Discord. We talk college football 24/7 all the time. So that has become the real perk right there is the Discord 24/7, 365 college football talk with anyone you want to talk with on there. And also that's going to be a benefit on all the Patreon levels. And then the 2 YouTube membership levels, Discord is going to be there. And it's all laid out. If you go to the front page of the YouTube channel and hit join, don't worry, you're not joining. You will just be able to see, if I understand this correctly, and since it just launched, I don't know exactly. Some of the problems that I have is when I set things up, I can't see what it looks like to you. And even if I log out of YouTube, it still doesn't work. So I can't always see exactly how it's going to look to you. Sometimes I've got to call somebody and say, what does this look like? What are you able to access? So, Joey, thank you so much for that. And I want to highlight, after we get to this next super chat from Jason, I want to highlight some of our content that we've got coming up. Jason, look at this. Look at this profile shot that Jason highlights here from our guy, Jim Harbaugh. Look at that. Is that not Harbaugh? That just captures our guy, Jim, in just a complete, that's just one. If you're going to call up a picture of Jim Harbaugh or represent yourself as a Michigan fan, that's the shot that you want. It's just Harbaugh. He's not screaming. I don't know what he's either kind of like get out of my face, or he's ecstatic, or he's happy, or I don't know what it is, but it's just Harbaugh. It's Harbaugh. And I got to tell you that if Jim Harbaugh did not coach in those colors, in that state, in that stadium for that program, I would have so many more good things to say about Jim Harbaugh. And I say that kind of kiddingly because I still say what I say about Jim Harbaugh. And when I think he's being a knucklehead, I point that out. And when he says a lot of things like he did at Big Ten Media Days that I definitely agree with, and that was actually aside from football, I pound the desk and I cheer and I pump my fist on his behalf. So I try to separate those two things. I'm not a Clemson football fan, but a lot of things Dabo Swinney talks about, even though I think he whines sometimes, and I've posted more videos targeting Dabo Swinney saying, Dabo, get over yourself, or Dabo, quit trying to play the underdog role. You're not that anymore. Quit whining and saying nobody respects us. He goes on his little, he's got an agenda, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's not hurting anyone, but it's a little bit, woe is us, woe is me. Nobody respects us. We're just little old Clemson. He still goes on those little and complains about things with a schedule that I don't justify in any such way. So I've picked on Dabo maybe more than any coach outside of Dave Doran at at one point. And outside of Les Miles, when it was just easy to pick on him every week of the college football season because he made some kind of dumb decision that made no sense on the sideline. But when it comes down to it, even though I picked on Dabo a few times, it's almost like your kids in that you want them to succeed, and obviously you're going to correct them more than anybody else. But with Dabo, I love Dabo. Love the guy. Now, I can't vouch for him. He's not a buddy of mine. I don't know his personal life, but I'm talking about what he is, at least based on what he has shown us in the public. Now, if it came out tomorrow that Dabo Swinney beat his kids, he's not my friend. He's not me. I don't have to defend him. I would say, well, then he's not really a good guy. And I want justice served. But based on what we know, I love Dabo. Love Dabo. So Harbaugh, kind of in the same thing, in the same way, that apart from his Michigan connection, which is kind of difficult to get around, but I think he's a little awkward at times. I think he says some things that are kind of they're not offensive to me, but they leave a lot open to interpretation. And maybe that's just him being a mastermind. That he is a strange guy. And I say that not in a derogatory kind of way, because we need strange people, unique people. And of course, we're all unique, but I think you know where I'm headed. Yes, Dave says he's an original. Zach Smith called Harbaugh a football Rain Man. Yeah, he acts like Rain Man. He does. On some levels, he's smarter than just about all of us. On other levels, he's way behind us. So there's this dichotomy of, are we getting the brilliant Harbaugh today? Are we getting the knucklehead Harbaugh? Jason says, I have the creepy one too, Mark. Yeah, the creepy Harbaugh look. Yeah. And some people just look odd. I'm not talking about their physical appearance. I'm talking about their facial expressions. They have odd looks, and he is a master of the odd look. And it's just him. Sometimes he looks. Now, there are some people that are just as clueless about a situation or just as much of a deer in headlights as other people. They just don't show it. But he shows us everything. Gregory is telling us that Colin Cowherd took Harbaugh off the air during an interview. I did not know that. Where were we on all this? Oh, yeah. So, thank you for the super chat, Jason. Every time I didn't see Traveling Fools right away. What I saw Joey's response to TF. But I knew this is what I was going to get out of Traveling Fools. There it is. Brendan comes in with yo, 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 yo. And I think I gave him way too much credit for too many yo, 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 yo's. I love that, though. It's cool to have a calling card. It's cool to have a handle. Like way back in the day, and I never used that phrase, so I apologize for using that now. But way back when I was a sportscaster in Mississippi, and we would tape an update for the morning. So, of course, I did the 6 o'clock news. I did the 10 o'clock news, the sports. And then after we would get done with the 10 o'clock news, I would have to tape like a 2 or 3 minute sports update that would air the next morning during their morning show that they would air, once an hour or something. Well, it was called the First Look at Sports. That's what it was called. The First Look at Sports. So just based on my natural cadence, not anything I was trying to accentuate, just based on the way I talk, which is very, I'm not going to get into that. Some people have kind of made fun of the way I talk and enunciate, but the way based on my cadence, I would naturally say, good morning, everyone. This is Mark Rogers with your First Look at Sports. And I would kind of punch up sports, and I would punch up kind of like, I would delay this kind of your first look at sports. And a couple people noticed that, and they thought it was kind of amusing. And then I got a little bit of reaction in the studio. So the more reaction I got, the more I played it up. And so that became, this is Mark Rogers with your first look at sports. That just got, so I just played it up and up and up and up and just ramped it up to where it became, and there I had all sorts of variations to it, but it was basically something like, good morning, everyone. This is Mark Rogers with your first look at sports. And this like annoyed some people, and other people thought it was the most hilarious thing. I would go to high school football games, and there would be people, I'd go to Mississippi State and Ole Miss games too. There'd be people yelling out of the crowd. They go, your first look at sports. And to the point where one day the news director, and he had some other title, station manager, general manager, he came in to the sports department, comes into my office, drops a bunch of letters. This is old school. This is late 90s, 2000, drops a bunch of letters on my desk. I'm like, what's that? And he's like, these are people complaining about you. Can you knock that off? Can you stop that? That's like annoying some people. And I said, well, first of all, it brings attention. So it's good to have bad publicity. So that's a good thing. Understand that. It's attention. People watch stuff that they hate and annoys them. So that's one thing. Number two, understand that for all these people, there's it wasn't like we got 1,000 letters. There was like a dozen. So I said, for the dozen people that I've annoyed to the point that they're writing the station saying, Mark, stop that, there's 20 or 50 people, I guarantee it, for everyone that wrote in, that like it, that they love it. And so they're not going to write the station. You know that. If you've ever gotten to the point where you have ever called in, texted in, written in about a complaint, you're going to complain. But if you love something, you just leave it be. So anyway, I forget how I handled that exactly. I think I backed off for a while, and then I just ramped it up again, and it made its way through. So, yo. Yes, back in the day, we wrote telegrams, and we actually would, we would write the message and have a carrier get on a horse, and they would have to go to the other town. Yes, Lewis, I did believe that Bo Schembechler said that, but I just wanted to make sure. I always want to be accurate, and I was about 99% sure. But I also thought that maybe Bo took that from, fill in the blank, from Michigan's history. Jason, what is he doing here? Oh, so, that's DeJuan Jones upset over the loss against Ohio State. You know who I thought that was at first? I thought that was the, I can't remember the player for Ohio State. This would have been back in, I believe, 2013 at the Big House, who got kicked out of the game, and he flipped off the crowd walking out of the stadium. Bear Bryant said it first. Oh, let's not get that debate started. John says, I know it's not your favorite thing, but you were really good at doing play-by-play, Mark. Maybe that's a Patreon video someday. I enjoyed it. Well, I love doing play-by-play. When I first got started in this business, reminds me of an Elvis line. But when I first started in television and radio, when I was just a young pup, and I actually just was going over this with one Jake Posey, who contacted me the last few days, and I recorded a podcast with him yesterday. So check it out. I will try to make those because he was asking me about my career and so forth. But the first job I had out of college, so I was 22. The first day I was on the job, I had to announce a parade. So that was something else. I'm 22 years old. I'm just happy to get on the air and be able to speak intelligently and not and be able to read a teleprompter and not screw up. If I could go up an entire newscast and not screw up when I was 22 years old, then I was happy. If I didn't in any way embarrass myself, I was just starting, so I was not very good. So, and then probably got to a point by 7, 8 years later where I was a better broadcaster than, at 30 years old than I certainly am today. But anyway, but one of my jobs was now I didn't have to take this job, but they knew my interest in sports. So I did play by play for high school football and high school basketball and also some random events. Like I did a swim meet one weekend, like all day Saturday. It's like 90 degrees out. I'm outside doing a swim meet, which I know nothing about swimming or know nothing about the sport of swimming. And I had to do a swim meet for like 8 hours. That was a lot of talking. Anyway, it was mostly high school football and basketball, and I loved it. Now, I didn't pursue that because I didn't see myself. I tend to get bored with things, and that's one of the reasons why when people tell me, Mark, you should just do an Ohio State channel, and that's it. You should just if you just locked in on Ohio State. I have people tell me this all the time. If you just locked in on Ohio State and nothing else, and you just every day, and that was all your content, you could become just like the biggest Ohio State brand. I don't want to be. I don't want to talk about Ohio State all the time, all day. That just would drive me crazy. Trying to think of what do we talk about today? Do we talk about every, position battle over? And it would just drive me crazy. I need diversity. I need to talk about other teams. That would drive me crazy. Anyway, the reason why I didn't choose play by play for a career, for a little time, I thought I would love to do this. I don't have the pipes for it. Those guys have just great booming voices. And yeah, it would have taken. Now, that's a skill that typically takes most people a ton of reps. And I got a lot of reps in for the span of must have been 3 football seasons. 90. When did I get that job? 91. Fall of 91, 92, 93. Yeah, so for 3 football seasons, 3 basketball seasons, I was doing like when the state tournaments would start up in basketball, I would get a lot of reps in. I would do like 2 games on Friday night, 2 games on Saturday, but I was not good enough at play-by-play to, I could see myself if I would have thought, okay, I want to go that path and do play-by-play, I would have probably been stuck doing like at the very best AA baseball for 20 years. Yeah, that would not have been pretty. But it's fun. I enjoy doing that. I didn't like doing it during the playoff games because that's something you got to prepare for. Like to do it really well. Like I'm trying to remember off memory who the players are. I'm seeing Georgia number 27 defensive back broke up that pass, and I'm thinking, I don't know. I know who that is, but I can't think of his name right now. All of that. Yeah, sorry, Jason. Mark reminiscing live, but I guess as long as somebody's going to listen to me and nobody's calling, then that's what we're going to do. Dave, that reminds me when Dave says swim meets are like track meets in water, parents spend all day supporting their kids for the 14 seconds they play. That reminds me of a comment I once made that a lot of softball moms took offense to because my daughter played Little League baseball until she was about 9. And then she was the only girl. She was the only girl in the Little League baseball league. So she was tired. I could tell she was starting to physically get behind. My apologies to any feminists out there that don't realize that men are stronger than women. But anyway, she got to a point where she was still one of the best players in the league, but you could just see where they were getting stronger and stronger. And I wanted her to be safe. Number one. Number two, she didn't want to hang out with a bunch of boys all day. She wanted to hang out with girls. So anyway, we switched her to softball. And I still remember the first day I took my daughter to a softball practice. And she had played baseball for like 5 years. And she was 9, I think. And the league, because we lived in a fairly small town, like 30,000 people, the league had like 9 to 13-year-olds on a softball team. So she was at the very youngest end of this team. And there were 13-year-old girls that were like bigger than me. And I remember we were walking toward the field and she stopped and she turned around to me and she goes, "Dad, those girls are huge." But she turned out to be a really good softball player, not like scholarship at Oklahoma softball player, but she could have played in college if she wanted to. She just didn't enjoy it that much. She wasn't like that into like taking extra lessons. And she showed up for practice, did her job, played center field for a team that went to the state championship game. Her senior season, unfortunately lost, but she was a good softball player, good little softball player. And, but especially until these girls they started to get good around 13 or 14 years old, where they could actually, you had very few errors in a game. But before that, as you can imagine, nobody knows how to pitch. They're teaching these girls how to pitch. It's a very difficult skill to learn. And then secondly, the average team had like 3 good players and 7 bad players that couldn't field, couldn't throw. So you had, just a comedy of errors constantly until she got on a really good team when she was like 13. And these games were brutal to sit through. And especially early in the season and late in the season, fall ball, you're sitting through some of these games and it's like 48 degrees and spitting rain. And you're like, oh my word, let's get this thing over with. But I say all that, to say one time I'm sitting there with a bunch of moms. I'm watching my daughter, and exactly what Dave's pointing out here. I only cared to watch my daughter play. I'm not there to watch 13-year-olds play softball. I'm there to see my daughter. So that's all I care about. Her at bats, watching her in the field. It's all I care about. And I made maybe a slightly derogatory comment about the level of play. And one of the moms said something to me. And then I made this statement. I said, if we had the technology to where I could edit my daughter's at bats and every play she makes in the field, and I could grind that down to the 3 minutes and 7 seconds that probably is, and I could come out to this field every game and just watch the 3 minutes that my daughter's involved in the action and leave, that's what I would do. Oh my goodness, Joey. Joey's always got a great perspective on these things. Joey enlightens me almost every day to something. He gets on the phone and he's like, "Mark, we should do this. Mark, we should do that." And it's 9. Every once in a while, I'm like, "Joey, we're not doing that." But about 90% of the time, I'm like, "Joey, I would have never thought of that. That's a great point." So Joey says, imagine if just 20 of us, and every time Joey throws out a number, he's always realistic and he's more correct than I am and more accurate and more realistic about the situation and just thinking, let's get to this number. I'm always like, Joey, there should be 1,000 people, not 20. There should be 1,000. But Joey's right. Imagine if just 20 of us would regularly share the link to Mark's videos and live shows on our social media pages or groups we belong to. We could reach so many more people with your help. It's free. That's a tremendous point. I'm guessing that I have more people follow me on Twitter than anybody that's currently watching. Maybe not. That might not be the case. I don't have that many people on Twitter. It's like not even 5,000. So it's not that much for somebody that's got a platform, but it's more than most. But the people that follow you on Twitter, follow you on Facebook, follow you on Instagram, do they most likely know who I am? No, they have no idea. Jason, you don't do social media. That's actually a good thing. That's actually a good thing. I have told myself, as you may have seen in some of the shorts that I posted a few weeks ago, and I meant to take you through my entire fast journey, and then I let that go, and I got to start doing shorts. Those are the new trend, the new wave. I got to start delivering some shorts. But if you don't know what those are, they're little video clips on YouTube, and do those on Instagram as well. Got to build up the Instagram. So follow me on Instagram if you're on Instagram as well. Voice of College Football. Voice of CFB on Instagram. Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. There you go. Joey, yeah, letting us know. Yeah, Traveling Fools is like at 30,000 on Twitter. Let's look him up. Yeah, it's amazing. Now, I'm going to guess that Traveling Fool's philosophy is, see, he's very much more democratic than I am. Like I had couple people follow me on Twitter the other day. So Traveling Fools, yes, he's got he's at 27,000 followers and he follows 25,000. I'm not as democratic as Traveling Fools. Traveling Fools is a much nicer human being than I am. I had a couple guys follow me the other day on Twitter, and then when I didn't follow them back, they're like, "You're not going to follow us?" I said, "What value do you bring to me?" I follow people I know, and I follow people that bring value. Now, if you are some dyed-in-the-wool Voice of College Football viewer, fan, and you really want me to follow you, yes, I will follow you. But I'm not following like 40,000 people that I don't want to see their garbage. I already see a bunch of garbage from people that I follow that I don't want to see. Now, plus, I got an issue with Twitter, and I've posted this a few times. Why do I have crap on my feed from people I don't follow? Like half the time I'll see stuff and I'll be like, do I follow this person? Why am I seeing this garbage? And I'll look. No, I don't follow that person. Why is Twitter giving me their stuff that I don't want to see? Dan Beast Media says, do you check Instagram, Mark? I've messaged you a couple times. I'm sorry, I did not see those. And thank you for following me across the socials. Yes, our Instagram is not developed. There's only like 80 followers, but we got to start somewhere. I had like 2,000 on Instagram. Then I got shut down and I had to start over. But Dave, I get it. I get it. If they didn't spread and didn't post from accounts that you don't follow, you wouldn't come across those people. But still, I get way too much of that. And I'm seeing stuff I don't want to see, whether I just think it's stupid or I think it's horrible. That's many times the case. I get disgusted every time I come to social media based on various issues in the world. But okay, so yeah, Traveling Fools, he's built a tremendous Twitter account, but being much more democratic than I am in terms of being just a better dude, just a nicer guy. I'm at 4,800 followers and I only follow 1,400. So, and I've seen a lot of people are worse than me. I think one time somebody was pointed out, maybe it was like a Kanye West kind of guy, had like 50 million followers and he followed like 3 people. Yes, too many sensitive people. Yes. I just got to keep posting this. Imagine if 20 of us would regularly share the link to Mark's videos and live shows on our social media pages. Joey makes a great point here. Again, Joey, brilliant. This is completely true. Do you know how many YouTube channels there are now compared to 2 years ago, 5 years ago? It just continues to explode. So you have a ton of options. So I appreciate everybody that's watching for this reason as well. My competition, the competition here, and I don't even like to think of it as competition, but it is, because you can only watch one thing at a time, or maybe 2, is that the competition is just not college football. because I know when I sit down to watch some YouTube, I don't necessarily think I'm watching college football. I just I might watch some music, listen to some music, watch a little bit of an old football game, watch a political debate, So we are competing here. We are competing here with news channels, gossip channels, movie channels, college football channels, NFL channels, and a million other things. So that's why, from a grassroots, it would be grassroots situation, grassroots perspective and approach, that we can use all of you and your help. John is telling us, I had an internet radio show on an indie rock station with my mom in 2008. It was called Two Scoops of Crazy. And that was my first DJ broadcasting gig. And that's where One Scoop John came from. It's a good name. It's catchy. Jason says, Twitter monitors your activity to see what you enjoy, and then they throw stuff on your feed that they think will upset you. People often engage with content that brings negative emotion. Well said. That is true. You're right. It should be the other way. They should be serving your interest. But yes, probably most of the interactions on Twitter are negative, and they keep people more invested and pissed off in a negative way. It's really a demented deal when you think about it. Dan Beast Media, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that you're targeting SEC football YouTubers to let them know about the voice of college football. Yeah, I wanted to point out, so don't hold me to this, because if there's one thing about me, it's that I typically bite off more than I can chew. That's just it is just my way. I typically take on more than I can handle, but I'd rather do that than underachieve and underexpect. So, hot. We posted earlier today our hot seat rankings for college football coaches. Check it out. Hopefully the internet's been good to me. It looks like I'm having a bit of a rough time. Am I okay? Can everybody see and hear me? I need to hardwire this again like it used to be. So we did deliver hot seat rankings. We may approach the ACC Pac-12 merge, and what I would suggest or recommend there, not necessarily what I see happening. Under the radar games, we got that one. Check that off the list. All-time program rankings. So if you were so blessed to be here a year ago, this took a long time. I went through every program in the Power Five and then added on some relevant programs like UCF and Houston and others outside the Power Five. I know that they're in the Power Five now, but I mean historically outside the Power Five, or recently BYU and others, and added them to the mix. And I went through and I built my own system, which totaled national championships, the voice of college football national championships, not the fake ones, but the national championships, conference championships, bowl wins, major bowl wins, AP points, meaning how well did you perform in the AP rankings. And even though I don't always agree with the AP rankings, obviously it's a great indicator of how good a team is and how good of a program. You're not finishing number 5 in the AP final rankings if you're not roughly the 5th best team in the country. And Heisman Trophy winners, major award winners, Butkus, Bednarik, Nagurski, all those. First round NFL draft selections, total NFL draft selections. Put together a whole chart of this. Let me find this. So we did a video, and I'm guessing a live stream on this last off season. And I just went through the other night and I added all this. So here we go. Let me find this. So all this here that you see, we tallied all this and I put together a system to rank programs all time. Is it perfect? Is it flawless? No. Is it extensive and thorough and accurate and extremely close to what it could be? Yes. Mike is enjoying his college football, voice of college football hoodie. Bless you, Mike. Good to see you here. So again, we will attack this again this off season, all-time program rankings. So I went through all these and I added what happened this season to the rankings. So USC had 7 Heisman Trophy winners. Now they've got 8, etc. TCU bolstered itself considerably by its winning percentage this season. It bumped its all-time winning percentage, I believe, from 539 to 543, which is pretty significant for one season. And also, TCU, I believe, had 3 major award winners, and they only had, I think, 4 in their history. And they had the Thorpe winner, the Davey O'Brien winner, and the Coach of the Year. What else do we have here? So we wanted to go through. So again, this is a list of all the things that we're going to tackle if I can get to them. This year's TCU. So we can interpret that one of 2 ways in my eyes. One would be just being very regimented. Who's going to be a national college football playoff contender or team that was 5-7 last year? Whoo! Texas A&M, Miami, Michigan State, or just is there a team off the radar, not considered a heavy college football playoff contender that could be this year's TCU? And then one of my favorite analysis would be the plus or minus win totals from last season. Who is going to increase their win total by at least 3 or decrease by at least 3? And it's going to be like so there was 27 last year. From 2021 to 2022, 7 teams, 27 teams increased their win total by at least 3 or decreased it by 3. And I guarantee that if I picked 27 teams in the Power 5 to do the same this year and rolled out their records and said, this is my prediction for this season, most of you would say, Mark, you're crazy. Because it just doesn't seem like that there would be that many teams that would go up and down that much. But as Tony is letting us know, Colorado +3. Yeah, they were the first one that came to mind. They went 1-11. They should go 4-8. They are so much more talented on the roster. They do have a difficult non-conference schedule, however. They've got Nebraska. They've got TCU. And even their other game must be Colorado State, Air Force, somebody decent. Yeah, so that to me is fun. I like that. Then what do we have? We're going to try to get to all of that in March. Then April is basically going to be all about spring football. And of course, breaking news changes everything. So if something happens in the news, we're going to respond to it, of course. But in May, talking about spring games coming up, going full bore, full throttle on Saturdays, breaking down spring games. And then, of course, post-game spring games, call-in shows, all of that. Then in May is going to be a fun month. So people don't think about college football in May, but May is the time to analyze things. You got time to finally jump in and really analyze things. So our still too early top 25, not the way too early top 25, but it's still going to be too early for a top 25, but we will produce a post-spring top 25. Conference power rankings, position rankings, player rankings, transfer rankings, or some analysis on who is transferred. Of course, there's going to be another big wave of transfers coming up in May. And then what about this? I enjoy doing this one too, where I take the teams that could possibly switch conferences and how have they performed against the conference that they may wind up in. So we've done this with USC, UCLA in the Big Ten. We've done this with Oklahoma, Texas, and the SEC. So check out those videos. I've analyzed Oklahoma and Texas's performance against the SEC in the last 10 years. I've analyzed USC and UCLA's performance against the Big Ten the last 10 to 15 years. I don't think with UCLA there were enough results that I went back to 2000 and then projected toward the future. So I will do the same with Miami, Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, just a number of schools that could be in different conferences. I did that with UCF, Houston, BYU, and Cincinnati in the Big 12. We're going to do our week 0, week 1 previews, do them sometime in the summer. Last year, 3 of the most popular videos outside of realignment, of course, you people are fixated on realignment. I should probably be talking about realignment and just posting in a video every day about realignment. That's what I should be doing. But truth be known, as you guys have stated in the chat consistently, I'm always honest. I get sick of realignment. Okay, so, but it's not about me, it's about you. I should be producing. That's another faulty approach to my YouTube perspective is I many times produce videos that I want to produce, but I should be producing videos that you want. But 3 of our most popular videos from last summer, aside from realignment, were week 1 previews, Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, Notre Dame, etc. People enjoyed those. And then we are going to take on May as the great debate month. So if you've got a debate, if you've got a debate topic that you would like to share with us and you would like us to debate, we will during the month of May. We do have a caller. We got Randy jumping on the line. Randy, what's going on today?
Good afternoon, everyone. How are we?
Oh, I'm sorry, Randy. I had your sound down. What was that, sir?
I said good afternoon. How are we?
I'm doing just fine. I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, we're doing good. I'm moving around a little bit, which is why I don't have my camera up. I'm just out on the go, but I figured I'd give you a call. And I heard you mention earlier nobody was calling, and we were walking down the road of our media history there, which I enjoy. And I just wanted to pop in and see. I didn't know exactly what to talk about because there's a lot we could discuss here. There's the professional history. There's the state of the channel right now and what you're trying to do, or we could just talk college football. So I can take it anywhere you want to go.
Oh, anyway, I want to go?
Sure.
Well, this is all about you, Randy. You called.
Well, yeah, because I support the channel, but
I'm going to be talking college football for 2 or 3 more hours tonight with a Big Ten show and with a USC show. So,
well, I'll see you there. I'll be around because as I'm sure by now you're aware, we play sports in America at night and on the weekends, so that's when I'm going to be working, and I usually try to pop up Voice of College Football while I'm working, kind of have it on in my ear, and I can't call in usually, which is frustrating because obviously I'm working, but I do enjoy having some college football discussion in my ear as I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing for the evening. So that's nice. But yeah, like you're let's start here. Let's start with what you're doing, across Patreon and those sorts of avenues. I mean, you're exactly right. If you're gonna treat this like a money making venture, right, like a business, then you have to diversify what you're offering and how you're offering it, and open up various avenues. Early on in the chat, like my channel here on YouTube is only like a month old, right? So, but even when I was walking into it, taking a long term view, because that's what YouTube is, a long term thing. I was investigating all of these various options, much like you've been discussing here. So I feel you when it comes to sorting out what works best and trying to keep the main thing, which is providing the kind of content that people actually are at your channel to see, right? And then making sure that you are delivering a product to the best of your ability that will meet those needs and something you can be proud of. So I find it all very interesting. I know some people who may not be doing this on the level that you and I might be looking at it aren't as interested, but I personally find it very interesting.
Yeah, I do too. But of course, I'm very invested in it. But even if I wasn't, I'm interested in these kind of things, business ventures and approaches to marketing and budgets and all of those sorts of things interest me. I like to listen to financial people uh, and people that build businesses and know how to build businesses. Yeah, all of that intrigues me.
So now you were mentioning starting out in your professional history. Um, did I miss something, or did you start out in television, or was it radio first?
Uh, the first professional job I had out of college was for a TV and radio station. So they were both. They
Right.
made their money and they had a long history as a radio station, a country music radio station, but they had started a TV station, I don't know, probably 10 years before I started there. So it was a small TV station.
I see. And that was as a reporter or as a
I was a news anchor. It was a very small operation. So there was basically three people working on news. And hang on just a second. I just want to find our next file. There we go. So, yeah, I was there for 3 years. I was hired. And what was funny was this is 1991. So, not a lot of internet usage or anything like that.
right.
And so I'm hopping in the car, or many times my dad's hopping in the car and driving me to various locations within a couple hours of where we lived. And I would just knock on the door of a TV station. Wouldn't even try because it was so fruitless to try to call TV stations and set up an appointment with a general manager or station manager. That was just impossible. That I would just cold call in person. And on the same day, I had two different, they turned out to be job offers from two competing stations in the same market. And ironically, I got a job offer about 10 years later from the third station in that area. But
Hmm.
what was funny was I just wanted to work in sports. That's all I thought about. I didn't want to work in any other, didn't want to be a weatherman or a news reporter. It did not interest me in any such way. But I didn't know that they needed a news anchor. I was just showing up to sell myself and was talking myself up as a sportscaster. And they needed a news anchor, but I didn't know it. So I very much badmouthed news when they asked me about news. I told them outright. I said I despise news. That was my quote. And they still auditioned me and hired me as a news anchor and reporter.
You just never know how it's going to shake out. I'll tell you, that story sounds very familiar to how I began. I was 15 at the time,
Wow.
and I was driven to a radio station by my mom, and because I was going to turn 16 a couple months later, but I was 15 at the time. Went to the radio station, walked in, said, "Hey, this is what I want to do." Much like you, I knew I wanted to be in sports journalism, sports production, sports broadcasting. That's what I knew, and I didn't know exactly how. I figured I would figure it out. And so at 15, same thing. Walked in, talked to the guy on duty who was running the board and doing the show, and he said, "Talk to this person." So I did, and then in that same meeting, got my first job um, at the radio station, and did that through high school, and then went off to college. And by the time I finished up at college, I was didn't know it, but I was beginning a career that was going to span the next quarter century. So it was very similar. You just never know how it's going to shake out. I find that pretty interesting.
Yeah. And once I was established at the station and doing well, and they liked what I was doing, I asked at one point when I felt comfortable, I said, because this was my first job, I was 22 years old. I
Hmm.
said, my first broadcasting job, and said, why in the world did you hire someone who told you they despised news? And they said, well, you read the teleprompter better than anyone else. I said, okay.
If I've learned anything over the years, and even today, like tonight, as I sit down to do what I'm doing, I'm going to be keeping in mind the people in the middle of Iowa or nowhere, South Dakota, who are the one man, one woman show, who write, produce, and are talent for the morning shows. Right? They do it all. And I'm going to be thinking about that person as I do what I do tonight because that's the person that I'm working with, right? I mean, like indirectly that's the person I'm serving. And
So
so
exactly what is your role? What is your job?
well, currently I'm an editor and trainer, producer. We do it all. You know how it is in the business.
Mhm.
Like you do all of those things. So I'm doing everything from quality control to encodes to all of it. But it's video editing for sports and production, writing scripts, all that kind of stuff. So it's officially I'm listed as a trainer, level 2 editor, but you're doing all of those things. So I mean, I've been in the field as a producer, been in the field as talent. So it is what it is. Less talent over the last 15 years, more producer
Yeah.
when I'm out in the field. But that's just it just is what it is. And it's so in other words, the highlight packages and things like that I'm producing any given night for any given sport, we're trying to make certain that whoever it is, regardless of your market, is going to have something that's going to service your needs, right? So if you simply want to talk about the home team or the team most local to you, then you can do that. If you want to tell the balanced story, you can do that. If you just need the top line, then you can do that. So we're trying to service those needs as best we can. So um, it's fun because it's never the same, and just like a job, it's challenging. But it is the job I chose, and I love it, and thankful that I get to do it. So, um,
Yeah, much like you when I first started that particular job and even my second job in Mississippi, but my first job for sure, there was very little support. So basically, between um, a girl about my age, we were both 22, 23 years old, and myself, we were responsible for the nightly newscast, and we could sometimes scrounge together a little bit of help, but very little. And so it was, yeah, the two of us. We'd grab our cameras in the morning and head out to whatever news leads we could find, whether we were going to the Board of Education meeting or the county commissioners meeting, or there was a fire or wreck, whatever could find. And we were just beating the pavement all day with our cameras, and then we'd show up a couple hours before news time, and we'd be editing and writing scripts and doing all of that.
yeah, that it's I mean, I haven't done local. Well, I've never done local television. I've done local radio and side work, freelance stuff at local levels, but I've always been at a national level or bigger. And so to take that 30,000 foot view and be able to distill it down to something that the same people can use in Los Angeles and in South Dakota, you figure out how to do that over time. So it's an interesting kind of thing. The other thing that your story made me think of is just um, how open and how willing people at those smaller stations can be to give young people an opportunity,
Hmm.
because they need help. And if they have someone who's energized about what it is that they're doing, they can teach you how to do it. They need to know whether or not you're willing to do it because it is not at all an easy gig. And people who sit down, turn on the TV or whatever, and just see the highlights, you may not think much of it because it's 10 seconds of your local high school team or whatever it is. That is a lot of work for whoever it is that has had to pull all that together, especially at those small stations. And so, shout out to all the young journalists out there who are getting it done at those smaller levels because it matters.
Oh yeah. And you don't have the best of equipment, and you have a
Right.
lot of adversity. There's stuff that happens every day that gets in your way of
Yep.
doing it the right. The first time we had to pull off an election night was chaotic, and I was completely inexperienced. So the only experience I had was doing a little newscast for Kent State, with a completely different setup because there was just much more support. It was at a university, and basically I'm writing scripts and reading them behind a desk. It wasn't a real life type of experience. So it just got me used to sitting behind a desk trying to read a script, and interact with people and kind of run air traffic control as a news anchor. And then I was fortunate enough to have 2 internships at the local ABC station, and they actually put me on the air, which I never thought that would happen. But they actually put me on the air, not live, but I would do like high school football packages, college football, Kent State, Akron U football packages for the news. So that was great experience to do stand-ups.
Yep.
What we called stand-ups at the time. I guess they still are. And then, but once I was thrown into the fire as a quote unquote professional, and I was still very raw, very inexperienced, very nervous, and all of those things. And the very first day I showed up, Randy, in addition to knowing, okay, I'm going to have to help produce a newscast, and I didn't know this town. I'd moved about an hour and a half away from where I lived. I knew nothing about anything that was going on. In addition to that, the very first day I got there, you know what they threw at me? They said, Mark, after the news. So I'm already nervous that I got to anchor the 6 o'clock news with my co-anchor, who I barely knew. I'd only met her once. That in addition to that, after the newscast, I had to broadcast a parade. So I was going to be like at a table on the side of the street with a parade going by me in a town I had never been to, knew nothing about anything, let alone broadcasting a parade. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. Like, they were going to give me a list of the floats that were going to come by, but what do I say about them? I don't know where these businesses are. I knew nothing. And I'm like, now they did have the girl that I worked, but she'd only been around for like 3 months, and we didn't have a rapport. We'd never met until that day. Well, I said hi to her one time when I visited the station, but we had never talked in our lives, and we were going to be broadcasting together something we knew nothing about. Like, I didn't even like parades. That I'm sure I would just cringe if I had a copy of that to watch, but that's great experience. Then you're thrown into the fire and you figure out things to talk about.
You hit the nail on the head. This job over the years has taught me, if it has taught me anything, it has taught me how to be a good conversationalist, shoot from the hip, roll with the punches. You describe what you see, right? You can't do anything until something happens. And then when it happens, then you can do something, you can have an opinion, you can state about, whatever it is, and you just roll with it. So I feel you 100% right there.
Yeah, and it teaches you not to take yourself too seriously, and it teaches you that you are going to make a mistake. You have to roll with it. You have to be able to bounce back, not get phased, not get overwhelmed by any situation. You can't get overwhelmed by technical breakdowns,
Yes,
by
absolutely.
mic issues, camera issues. Anybody who's worked in the business for a period of time has had IFB, meaning, for anybody out there, earpiece issues where you suddenly can't hear yourself. You can't hear. Oh, I remember at my second job, which was the best job I ever had from the standpoint of what I did every day. I just covered the SEC basically every day and local high school sports. And I was I ran the sports department, and they let me run with that and do whatever I wanted. They didn't tell me anything I didn't do. They probably in 7 years told me 3 times, Mark, because of a sponsorship, you need to go down to this local tennis tournament and go down there and cover them and give them some time. That happened like 3 times in 7 years. I had carte blanche to do whatever I wanted. But I remember the first time I went to the SEC basketball tournament, my very first night, I'm doing a live broadcast from Atlanta, the SEC basketball tournament, and the monitor went out. So I'm trying to call highlights that I can't see. I'm just standing there, and the guy in the truck was so smart that he thought of this on the fly. He said, "All I'm going to tell you in your ear is next shot, next shot." And if you can remember in your mind or based on your notes what that next shot, and I called a shot sheet of highlights that I couldn't see, and because he helped me and say next shot, it was pretty flawless and it worked.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, there's another experience of something that seemed catastrophic at the time, but you pulled it off and with some help.
Move right along with confidence, and most folks will never know the difference. It's wonderful, uh, because oh my gosh, stories. I've just got stories and stories and stories. But as a trainer, as one of my primary roles is I tell everyone from the intern to the new hire to the freelancer, whatever it is. I tell them two things are certain. One, live happens live, and two, you're gonna burn. Just get ready; it's gonna happen. Something's gonna go sideways, and you're gonna burn. You got to keep moving. There's nothing you can do to stop it in the moment. You just got to push through and work toward the end goal. So there's a lot about this profession that is good for teaching life lessons in a larger sense. So once
Absolutely.
you once you spend some time in it, you're like, yep, this you can apply these lessons to anything because you find yourself in some weird positions sometimes, no doubt.
I mentioned election night. That was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. It was a train wreck. We were horrible. We didn't know what we were doing. We'd never, both she and I are in the same boat where we'd never handled an election night. So we didn't even know how to plan for one. We just ran out to the election headquarters with our cameras and shot a bunch of footage, but we were totally taken off guard and it was a complete train wreck. It was horrible. Like it was
Hmm.
embarrassing. It was just a train wreck. We're getting all these results in. We don't know what we're doing. And so the next year, completely different. We knew, okay, we had a game plan. We put it together. And then it
Hmm.
was smooth sailing as much as an election night can be when you've got last second results coming in and all that. But, it taught us, okay, this is what you encountered. You had experienced it once. It was a train wreck. What do you need to do? What's your plan? And we worked out a plan. And it was almost like filling in blanks. Like we almost built like the show before election night. And then we just had to drop the sound bites and drop the results in the spots.
That's right. Yep. Each thing has its own life, right? Whether election
Yeah.
night works one way, sports live coverage works one way. It's fascinating. The pre-produced shows, with a full rundown, all that is all it all has its own life, and it's an interesting. It's just fun. So, as an old TV journo myself, I can appreciate and I appreciate this conversation, even though this is the voice of college football. Now, I do have some football talk though.
Sure.
As you know, Georgia is spring practice is underway, and there was a lot of question. I mean, everybody wants to know about the quarterbacks, um, but there's a lot of question about the additions because this year, different than the last couple of years, Georgia actually brought in a couple of players through the portal that they haven't. That's something that they haven't really utilized over the last couple of years with this maybe one player or something like that. And this year they took two prominent players, the wide receivers from Mississippi State and Missouri. And
Yep.
early reports out of Athens tell us that those guys, especially Lovett, are looking really good and working well with Carson Beck. So you can't glean anything from day 3 necessarily, day 2. But first day in pads, reports seem to tell us that of the 3 quarterbacks that are up for consideration, Beck appears to be the most comfortable. He looks good, and all of the physical traits involved with playing quarterback. He throws the ball well with zip, but he just appears to be the most comfortable as far as running the show right now. And the 2 transfer wide receivers are both folding right into the rotation. Lovett looks to be running with the 1s, and Thomas, the first couple of days, he was back with the 4s, the 3s and the 4s. But that was more out of numbers than it was, production or how he looked necessarily. But those 2 guys, they appear to be working their way right into the rotation. So as you look at Georgia's wide receivers moving into 23, today you have Rosemary Jackson at one side and probably Ladd McConkey as your starter on the other side on the outside. But as we move into the season, I think, or get closer to the season, I think what you're going to see is Ladd move into the slot unless Dominic Lovett edges him out in the slot. And if he does, Ladd will move back outside. So, and you still got Bowers and Delp and the other weapons at wide receiver, or I'm sorry, at tight end. So early reports are that, things look good. The players look good. They haven't turned over the offensive system. There's not a lot of new verbiage or anything like that. It's essentially going to be the system that was in place the last 2 years. So early reports are good, but hey, it's the first day in pads and you can't draw any conclusions from that. But it's not like there's been some sort of issues that have arisen at this point.
Yeah, it would be so much nicer to be able to have firsthand accounts from these practices, and we do get some video. We do get more information from the players and coaches and what they want to let us know, but of course not anything firsthand. Our buddy Logan Robinson at Knoll Game Day and with Florida State, there's a lot that he gets to see, but there's only so much that he can divulge.
Share with us.
Share with us that it's basically there's an understanding, if you if you share this information, if you share what you've seen, then you're no longer going to have credentials. So anyway, bottom line, It's difficult to get information and to get and with the transfer portal being what it is, a lot of these decisions are made later in the year strategically to keep kids at the program.
Well, to that point directly, 2 things. One, Kirby he's just notoriously strict with, what he allows to be seen. And I think about 15 minutes is what we're getting these days, 15, maybe 20. And you see what you see, but you don't get to move around. You're in the pen. They group you all together. So if you're really interested in the middle linebackers and they're on the other side of the field at the far end, well, then you're out of luck. So that's how that's working. But the other thing to transfers, there's been a lot of talk about what happens with Georgia's quarterbacks should, say, Beck win the job. Now, whether we know that or not, Kirby's not going to say until the fall. That's just the way it is. But let's say G-Day tells us, based on what we see, that it looks like Carson's going to take the job. A lot of people just assume that Brock Vandegrift is going to transfer out if that's the case. I would just say pump the brakes on that a little bit, because Brock is scheduled to graduate in December of this year. So he's really close. So even if he goes into this season as the number 2, there's a lot that could still happen there. If Carson were to be the starter, come out, have a huge year for Georgia this year, he is already in the program 4 years. So he could very easily decide that he wants to move on at that point and enter his name in the draft. If that happens and Brock is your clear number 2 all season, well, then now Brock would move into the next year as a graduate player who could assume the reins as the number 1. We know that Gunnar Stockton has said, look, I don't know how the competition is going to play out. I know there's talented players there. I intend to graduate from the University of Georgia. So take that for what it is, but Gunnar is there to compete and he wants to be at Georgia based on that statement. So there's no, even if Carson comes into the season as the number 1, there's no guarantee that Brock is going to hit the portal after spring practice and be gone. Because if he stays with the program, he would play out the season as number 2. And if you just look at Georgia over the last 5 years, there's only been 2 seasons where they didn't have to play the number 2 quarterback for some reason, whether it was injury or whatever. So he would play out the fall as number 2. And then if he chooses to transfer at that point, he could transfer anywhere as a graduate player, and have a couple years left to offer if he wanted to take it. So I don't know. I guess I'm just saying that even if Carson's number 1, you can't assume that Brock Vandagriff, who was a high 4-star, low 5-star, depending on your ranking, is just going to be in the portal right after spring practice. It just doesn't appear to be the case. Now, if that happens, the thing you have to look out for at Georgia as a program is Kirby will not go into the fall with only 2 scholarship quarterbacks, which would be the case. So if he leaves, then you can absolutely expect Georgia to go find a body to come into Athens knowing that they were going to be the 3rd string quarterback, the emergency quarterback. I don't have any idea what that would look like who you could get to take that role. But at that point, Gunnar would be the clear number 2 because Gunnar's going to get reps with the 1s here in spring. So regardless of how the 3 shake out, if Brock were to leave, Gunnar's going to be your 2, and then they would have to find a body to be your emergency quarterback. So I don't know, just a little insight from what
Absolutely.
we're hearing and the people that I know who are covering the team every day and on the ground. So it's interesting.
Good stuff. Randy, appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for calling. Hope you have a good shift tonight, and call back anytime, of course.
Oh, yeah. And like I say, I'll be on the shows later tonight, and hopefully I can catch the SEC show tomorrow.
All right, Randy. Have a good one.
All right. You'll be good.
Voice of College Football, appreciate you all being here. We will be back with you at 6 Eastern right here and on all the Big Ten channels. The Big Ten live show comes up on Monday. That is today, 6 p.m. Eastern time. We will see you then. In the meantime, YouTube memberships, check them out. Patreon memberships, check them out and give us your feedback. It's always welcome right here at the Voice of College Football. See you at 6 Eastern.